we'll be focusing on war mix additives, additives and the benefits that they provide that we have here around the state. And so we have three guests with us today. Jeff LeCorchick, Jeff, just raise your hand, with Ingevity, and Matt Elam with Western Infrastructure, and Jeff Weitzel with Arrmaz Road Science. Jeff.
Hello, everyone.
Thanks. Somebody's sharing their screen. Jeff, go ahead and close that for a minute. We'll share that in a minute. There you go. So we have our panelists that with us today, and they all have different war mix additives and products that I'll ask them to share. They are similar in scope, but different in chemistry. And so each of them will give some examples, some high-level discussion about what the chemistry of their products look like. And then I'll do some Q&A with them and ask each of them to talk about success stories of some projects that may have either been used here in Colorado or regionally across. So, but part of the success of our web program is based on our sponsorships. So I would like to thank the APWA Colorado chapter, the FHWA, and several of our CAPA members that support this webinar program, which it makes it free for all of you that are joining us today to participate. We do record these webinars, and so we will upload it into our technical library and directory, and it'll be up there next week. So if there's anything that comes up today that you'd like us to re-listen to or revisit, check that next week in our technical library. So with that, let's get straight into the topic, and I'm going to start with you, Jeff LeCorchick at Ingevity. So if you can just give us a little bit of your background and history, and then tell us a little bit about the additives that you guys have and some of the chemistry, how that works.
Mike, can you hear me?
Yeah. Jeff, while you're pulling that up, why don't you give us a little bit of your background while you're working on that?
I can't hear him either.
Yeah, you're muted there, Jeff. Well, Jeff, while you're working on that, let me switch it over to Matt. And Matt, if you can give us a little bit of your history, background, what Western Infrastructure is, and talk to us a little bit about your chemistry. We'll give Jess a few minutes to work on his technical snafu. So go ahead, Matt.
Okay. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm Matt Elam. I'm the distributor for Zydex Industries out of India here in the Rocky Mountain region. They're a chemical additive supplier to the asphalt industry, and our product Zycotherm has been in use for 10 plus years now. More mix, anti-stripping, compaction aid, all the normal stuff. We are the basis of our chemistry is an organosilane, so it's a little bit different. It's a silica-based chemistry, but just like everybody else, it's been used a lot for a long time, mostly as a compaction aid, anti-strip. We've done warm mix projects when people have been specifically asked to, and it performs extremely well with that. And we've got some data and information to show. Hopefully the industry starts to trend back to that with the EPD and BMD that's coming, because I think it's important. But yeah, that's kind of the background of what I've done here. So on the Zycotherm product.
Thanks, Matt. Jeff Weitzel, you want to give us a little bit of your background and an overview of your company?
Yeah, absolutely. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Do you mind if I share my screen real quick?
Go ahead.
let me see here. Let me do the share. Screen application. And let's see here. Can you see the screen?
No.
Yep. Okay. Custom tab. Cancel. Try one more time here. Here we go. Sure. How about now?
Gotcha.
Okay. So we have been around a long time as Arrmaz, as you can see in the lower right-hand corner, although we were acquired by Arrmaz in late 2019. And I wanted to share that with you because there's a lot of folks here within the industry that may or may not know of Arrmaz or the name, but they're out of France. They're a very large chemical supplier and have been in the asphalt space for more than 30 years. So, you know, our goal as Arrmaz, we want to reduce the carbon footprint. We want to reduce and improve the contractor's EPD score. We want to lower their energy consumption and increase more recycling materials into their mixtures. And also focus on the customer's overall profit, which is always important, right? And contribute to the sustainability in the future. Now, if you look at our product line up here, and this is what we want to talk about, I'm going through this rather quickly because I know that we have a limited amount of time here and several folks here online. However, our amine-based products are amidoamines. So the amidoamine products create a much larger molecule and substantially lengthens the carbon chain of the amine molecule. It performs better than a polyamine, a fatty amine by themselves. Larger molecules enhance stability. A different combination of the polyamines, fatty acids under varying reaction conditions yield amidoamines with greater performance characteristics. So again, when you're looking at different additives to put into your mixture, there are several things that you need to look at with regards to performance. Not always the lowest price product gives you the best performance. Now, your non-amine chemistries are the ad here, Ultra SE1, Ultra 37N, and Sika Base RT. And all of these have a low odor formulations. Therefore, it's nicer for your guys in the field that are working behind the screen or on the paver. They don't have to put up with foul odors or toxic type fumes coming off the paver. It's compatible. This phosphester chemistry on the non-amines is compatible with phosphoric acid modification asphalt products. I'll stop sharing my screen now, since that kind of covers the that portion of it, and we can talk about these other projects later on.
Thanks, Jeff. Jeff LeCorchick, is your mic working? We're still not hearing you, Jeff. You might want to bounce off the webinar and rejoin and catch up with us here in just a minute. In the meantime, I'll ask Matt a question. So Matt, let's talk about additives in general. And we know that research is being done at NCAD and the test track down there. They're doing an additive test section that includes some of industry products that we're talking about here. It also includes some plastics and other things like that. Talk a little bit about an additive in general, not specifically yours, but an additive in general, and what it can do as a WMA for increased performance. Because when we're talking about focusing on quality outside of price, there has to be a price element to this. But when we're focusing on quality and performance, what can WMAs provide?
Well, I think a good way to think about it is, and I don't want to speak for the other chemistries, but I think we do a lot of the same things just with different mechanisms. But what I like to explain to people is rock and oil are things that we're shoving together that don't generally always want to go together. And so what the additives do is we improve bonding, but we also improve coating. And in our case, and probably the others, is we, instead of taking a minute or so to coat, the coating happens in 20 seconds. So you're speeding up the coating of the aggregate and you're getting everything coated very thoroughly. So that, what does that do? Well, that's why you get better compaction. That's why you don't need as much heat to do the work. So that's a real important thing to think about, is the chemistries just enhance what we're trying to do in the manufacturing process, which is, oil has a polarity, rock has a polarity, and sometimes those things just don't want to go together real well. So that the chemistries make that happen faster, better, and again, that's what kind of leads to these. Why can you mix at a lower temperature? Why do you get better compaction? Because it's all happening a lot more efficiently. Does that make sense?
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah, I would have to agree with Matt. I mean, it's a surface tension modifier, if you will. So you have your asphaltenes is non-polar, and your aggregates polar, right? So you have to have something that is going to have within the chemistry, it has to be able to attract both of those with a non-polar tail and a polar tail, and then you attract those together. Surface tension modifier, and it acts as kind of lubricity, right? It's you're able to compact it easier, quicker. I mean, you can see that in the lab. If you do so, say you put enough grams into your mole to you want to get 63 millimeters of height on your puck, right? You can look at how many gyrations is going to take you to compact that sample at 63 millimeters, right? And you can do that as a control section and then with an additive in it and see where you're at. It kind of gives you an idea of less energy to compact the same amount of material, if that makes sense.
And to mix.
Stay on that topic there for a minute, Jeff. As temperatures. Now, WMA additives are not new. They've been around for a decade plus. And when they first came on the market, they were marketed as a solution for producers to reduce temperatures during production and also deal with lower temperatures during construction. But we're finding as an industry that a lot of producers, at least here locally in Colorado, are not dropping their temperatures significantly, but they're still finding benefits with these additive products. Talk a little bit about that shift in almost business model. It's the drop in temperatures almost becoming secondary at this point.
Okay, go ahead, Matt, and I'll chime in.
Yeah, it's been kind of odd because I think it's part of it. I hear a lot of, oh, we dropped the temperature, and people, they're just so used to how we've done it for forever and ever, and so the mix, it shows up in the field, and everybody kind of gets worried when if they really understand what the chemistry is doing and why you can drop the temperature and compact to such lower temperatures than normal. But what it's kind of found its place as is, if my customers are using it for anti-stripping, for compaction aid, workability with the polymers, later in the year, it's just been, well, instead of dropping our temperature 50 degrees, we'll drop it 10 or 20, but that's good. And we're getting all these other benefits that we want. So they just, they haven't been really pushed into, and I think things like economic reasons, like the cost of natural gas or whatever the heating fuel is, or just have not been large enough to really drive that change. But I think we're heading back in that direction. So we'll see. But it's sort of kind of found this little in between home of, like, we get the benefits we want. We don't have to lower the temperature a lot unless someone really wants us to. And it's unfortunate because I think warm mix brings a lot of benefits to the table. Like we'll see, I'm sure, with all of our stuff down the line, like crack resistance and less degradation of the film, the asphalt film, things like that.
Yeah,
So
no,
let me go ahead, Jeff.
no, you're right. You're right, Matt. You're right on the money there. I mean, with this whole idea of trying to get a better EPD score. So I think with this, our additives that are here on the market will be able to accomplish those things for the contractors, and they'll be able to see that later down the road when they actually do initiate and start lowering temperatures. But yeah, I mean, I've been doing this for a very long time across the country and in a lot of areas. And you're right, 99% of your contractors are not lowering the temperature at the plant, and they're primarily using it for a compaction aid. I mean, you get incentive, disincentives for your densities, right? And so, that's their motivating factor. Am I going to be disincentivized or incentivized if I use this? And, it's like, hey, guys, you're getting your density bonuses. It's great insurance policy. I mean, do you drive around in your car without insurance? No. I mean, it's that one time you get dinged and you get a disincentive on that because you didn't get your densities. All of a sudden, you wish you would have had that insurance policy. It would have been and it's really is very inexpensive insurance. I mean, for us here in Colorado, it's a lime state, right? So with these additives that are currently on the market, you really, in most cases, or in probably all cases, you don't even need a lime in the mix. However, I know the city of Colorado Springs, last conversation I had there, they're reducing the amount of lime because they're still nervous or scared or whatever. But they're allowing a warm mix additive in there at 0.5%. So you're putting in 0.5% of warm mix, 0.5% of lime. It's still less expensive doing that than it is by just using 1% lime and no additive. And
let me take it from there, Jeff.
Yeah, absolutely.
With a follow-up question. This is Jeff LeCorchick. Now that you're back with us, so one of the things that Matt and Jeff Weitzel were just discussing about when these products originally came out a decade ago, some of their primary roles and functions and what they've really fallen into more on the construction side of things. And Jeff just hit the nail on the head is these are cheap insurance policies for producers and constructors to get maximized incentive for densities and longitudinal joint construction, etc. For the projects. That's not what these additives were originally envisioned to do. However, our industry is embracing green paving right now, and going greener. And here in Colorado, we're leading the way with these EPDs that Jeff talked about, environmental product declarations. We are the first DOT in the nation to require this. And an environmental product declaration is basically a nutrition label that goes on a ton of asphalt that says how much energy was used to create a ton of asphalt. And the assumption is that energy used to create that ton will emit greenhouse gases. And so right now in Colorado, the goal is not to reduce those, but simply track them. For the next couple of years, the DOT will be doing that. So where do your additives in general, WMA, how will they affect those EPDs and environmental sustainability, that's one part of the question. The second part of the question is we're also implementing balanced mix designs in Colorado. We're a little behind the curve on the BMD implementation. Several other states have already done that. But that implementation of BMD to balance rutting and cracking, we expect to see AC contents go slightly higher to make our thermal cracking resistance here in Colorado a little better. So that was a long-winded question to say, tell me about WMAs and how they're addressing EPDs and balanced mix design and environmental sustainability.
Yeah, so can you hear me now? Okay,
All
is my
good.
microphone working?
Yes.
Great. All right, so yeah, I agree with Matt and Jeff wholeheartedly. You see in the market that these products were made for a whole slew of benefits, but you see them being primarily used as compaction aids. You see that across the country, but specifically in Colorado as well, with the trying to extend the paving season and trying to get compaction at these high elevations. How are products, what we're seeing with EPDs? So we are seeing a benefit in a reduction in your EPD score when switching to a chemical WMA. So that's just right off the bat. Take out the lime, put in a WMA or put in a warm mix additive, and you will see an increase. Now, there's further benefits downline from that too. One of the main ones being lower temperatures. So by lowering temperatures, you're going to use less fuel to heat the aggregate. So that's going to be a win right there on your EPD score. The other thing is the longevity of the pavement. So I think something that FHWA and some of the studies are starting to show right now are the benefits of reducing the temperature and how that has the effect on the binder and the longevity of the pavement. So I think we always knew that compaction is king. I think a great standard is a 1% decrease in voids has been shown to increase your pavement performance by 10%. But now we're seeing how important it is to try and reduce the temperature at the mixing plant to extend the pavement life. So from an EPD perspective, that's important because you're getting a longer life pavement and you're not having so much input to get there. From a balanced mix design perspective, I think Matt and Jeff would agree. Chemical warm mixes are really advantageous in this process. So you see that in the way we're increasing RAP while still achieving density. So a lot of these chemical warm mix additives help with workability. So that's a real big thing. You're not stuck within a box right now. You have a little bit more leeway in terms of design. And instead of just trying to check those boxes, are you hitting your voids, gradation, AC contents, they're looking a little bit more into the performance of the road in a long-term basis. So, I think that we welcome both BMDs and EPDs in trying to work through those.
Excellent response. Thank you, Jeff. Matt, I'm going to ask you here. All of your products, all three of your products are on CDOT's approved product list and are available for use and approved by CDOT. For somebody who doesn't know what I'm talking about, what does that mean? The difference between a product that's approved on CDOT's APL, how long is that approved? Just talk to us about what that means.
That's a great point, and it's the APL for WMA products it's the CP59, right? And we probably need to talk about that because it's CDOT as a lime state doesn't have a APL for liquid anti-strips. It's simply lime, but the CP59 is okay. You can use these additives for warm mix, and I think it's high time that is reevaluated because there's some. And I apologize that I'm not trying to, if there's anyone from CDOT listening, but there's some inherent flaws in chemical versus foaming and the way that spec was designed, because the what we've seen time and time again, it's highly critical for the chemicals to be introduced in the mix design process, where the CP59 just says, do your mix design as is, then add your technology. So but for anybody to know, that just says CDOT's looked at your product, your technology, and said, yes, it is a warm mix technology.
Jeff Weitzel, the history of Colorado DOT using warm mix goes back about a decade, and some of their earliest test sections were put down in 2011 on I-70 up there at the Eisenhower Tunnel. And there were three different test sections put down there. And those of you that are maybe outside of Colorado, Eisenhower Tunnel is about 11,000 feet. That's some rough road up there with cold temperatures. And there were three different products, that were put down back in 2011: Advera, the Asphalt, and the Elam. Those three products. Talk a little bit about what our history looks like with the DOT and WMA, whether DOT has embraced it or they've been hesitant. Based on that pilot test section that was done 10 years ago, they did 3 years of study on it, and they found the performance was equivalent to or better than traditional hot mix with the WMA. So that gave them some comfort. But talk a little bit about that last decade with CDOT and WMA additives.
Yeah, no, thank you for that question. I appreciate that. I would say that, CDOT in general, they've embraced it to the point where they're very open and acceptable for contractors to use it. However, they're still not speccing it in, right? They're not against it. For instance, there was a contractor, the Gap project down by Colorado Springs. I believe that contractor was Asphalt Specialties. Almost every single ton of hot mix that went on that project had a WMA or a warm mix additive in that. But again, that was primarily for densities to get achieve their bonus for insurance, right? But again, CDOT's still a lime state. They're requiring lime. There are some contractors are not putting in a WMA because of the fact that they're, concerned. Well, am I going to get the project because, it's an added cost to the mix, and if bids are tight, is that really going to jeopardize, my ability to win that project? However, again, I'll reiterate that the price to that insurance policy is really cheap, relatively low. But again, Colorado State, they're not, I would say, fully embracing it, because if they did, then they would say, okay, let's go ahead and run with a project, and maybe they have that I'm not aware of. But go ahead and run with the project without lime, and maybe that's what we need to do. Is let's do a control section. Let's get a project out there, control with and without lime, and you can vary the temperatures. You could do that with an EPD as well. So we talk about EPDs and the use of lime. The score for a lime versus a WMA, I can assure you that EPD score is going to be significantly lower without lime.
Let's keep our discussion to WMA additives instead of lime versus liquid. That's a different topic. But Jeff LeCorchick, let me ask you: the latest set of data that we've seen that CDOT has shared with us, as far as WMA tonnage that CDOT has put down, they did a 2018 to 2020, so a 3-year summary of data that they shared with us that showed all the tonnage that they've placed across the state in those 3 years that had WMA. They use it in all five regions across the state. Some regions more than others, but all five regions have some work. But what's surprising is when we added up that total tonnage for 3 years versus all the tonnage placed for 3 years, that number was about 15%. So that's back to what Jeff was just talking about earlier, is them allowing it versus them promoting it. But if we're at a plus or minus 15% WMA state, what does that mean? And how does that compare to other states and their WMA usage?
Boy, that's a great question. So I would say, seeing 15% over 3 years, from what I see in Colorado, I think a lot of contractors are just using it as a compaction aid. I think what Jeff said earlier hits the nail on the head. I think you need the DOT to embrace it, the performance benefits of a WMA, and then drive that through specification. A lot of contractors right now are not mandated to use it. So it does come into an economics perspective of, am I going to lose this job? Am I going to lose this bid? Does it make sense? I think it speaks to the conversation you had about balanced mix design earlier, in the way we see our industry phasing towards that, to kind of look more at a higher view of how that mix is going to perform than just low price in hitting your voids and gradation and AC content. So what we see in other states, so our neighboring state, I would use Nebraska. Nebraska has really embraced the use of WMA in terms of liquid anti-strips. They encourage it to be used. They mandate it to be used. It's a terminally added state. So you see the usage there increased, and I think it's because the DOT did that driving specification, and I think they look at that as a very cheap insurance policy, not just from a liquid anti-stripping perspective, but from a density perspective.
Excellent. Matt, I'm going to throw you the next question. So let's flip this around and look at the other side of the coin now. While CDOT is responsible for using approximately 25% of the tonnage that's created in Colorado on an annual basis, we're about a 9 million ton state. They're not the biggest user. It's the local agencies, cities and counties, that are about 35% of our market. Now, CDOT is the largest single entity, but 35% are local agencies have a different perspective on the use of WMAs. And they're not exactly under the same qualifications about being allowed or not allowed. And I can give some examples specifically over on the West Slope, Grand Junction, Mesa County, Montrose, etc., where additives are used on a regular basis, and here on the Front Range. Talk a little bit about that difference at the local agency level.
Well, I think there again it goes back to it needs to be driven by CDOT, and it all kind of funnels downhill. If it's lime or no lime, it's CDOT we could easily be saying, mandating, we want temperatures lowered, and they could spec it in jobs. And tell me if they're doing that or not doing that. You said that 15% that they use WMA, is that just an additive was used, but we don't know what the temperature? Do you know the temperature was dropped?
90% of that tonnage, that 15%, 90% of that tonnage, temperatures were not reduced.
Right. And so there again, it's just a compaction aid. But, if I'm an owner, whether it's local, private, or CDOT, knowing what I know is I would be mandating chemical warm mix and saying, I want the temperature 50 degrees less. And the analogy I like to use is, when Apple's making an iPhone, they don't beat it with a sledgehammer and then put it back together and sell it to you. So why? And that's essentially what we're doing to the binder when we're heating it 50, 60 degrees hotter than you need to. So, but yeah, I'd love to see the cities and towns jump on this more. I think they should, but I think everybody, CDOT's kind of the shining flag on the hill, and if they drive it, then I think it will get much wider use. Now, Jeff Weitzel, when we were in Albuquerque last year at the BMD conference. Remember when Buzz Powell was talking about there are plants in the southeast that are 100% WMA, and I don't remember if that was economic driven or performance driven or DOT mandated, but he said there's plants starting to just produce 100% of warm mix and chemical warm mix.
Yeah, no, I think it's all of those. I don't think it's mandated. New Mexico's an either or state. They still use
No, not New Mexico, but Buzz was talking about plants in the southeastern U.S.
Oh, in the southeast.
Yeah, there was some plant, not a lot, but there was plants starting to say. He said, "Hey, these plants have said we're just going to produce 100% warm mix." So, and I think that's a trend that will continue. But you got to say, how do we speed that up and make people not be afraid of it, basically?
No, yeah, that's a good point, and you know that's the hurdle that we have to overcome, right? And I think this mandate that CDOT has put forth and it's signed into law by the governor. I mean, they're saying, hey, we want a lower carbon footprint. Well, there you go. Here's the answer. If you want,
yeah, and that's certainly going to drive a lot,
industry, right?
Sure.
So all you have to do is take it one more step. They said, hey, let's do this EPD thing, lower our carbon footprint. Okay, if you're really serious about it, let's lower the temperature.
So, Matt, I think one I can add to this discussion about the difference between DOT level and local agency level. One of the things that we're involved here at CAP is helping support our members when they're trying to move an asphalt plant or permit a new gravel pit. And they have to go in front of Board of County Commissioners and their planning commissions. And there's typically opposition at those Board of County Commissioners for the rezoning or moving of an asphalt plant.
That's why it's not.
Yes, exactly. You know what I'm talking about. So it's not uncommon to see the opposition and the county commissioners moving into a position where they need some kind of support from our industry to say, how are we going to be good neighbors at an asphalt plant, and what can we do to show our community that we are good neighbors? We're going to drop our temperatures, which is going to help with odors and all these other things that our neighbors are concerned with in the community. Now, we can show them asphalt plants today are good neighbors and good members in the community. But going forward, using WMA additives, as you just mentioned, if you have a plant that goes to 100%, it just helps placate the local agencies address that issue. Jeffery LeCorchick, following up on that, have you seen success with other plants doing this to codify and local agencies and communities? Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, something that we're not seeing as much in Colorado, but a neighboring state, Utah. So something that's kind of in the works right now are these blue smoke rejuvenation systems. So, or blue smoke emission systems. So, something that Utah is trying to eliminate is the emissions coming off the asphalt. So they're enacting blue smoke systems, which essentially grab the emissions and take it back to the drum to be burned off in the drum. So something that we're seeing is the embrace of Utah. New York is looking at these blue smoke systems and putting wording in place that allows you to use a chemical WMA while reducing the temperature instead of putting in a mechanical system to deal with the emissions. So that's one thing that we're seeing a lot of in terms of being a good neighbor. Reduced emissions. So, and with reduced emissions, like you said, reduces odor. I'd go back to what you said too about CDOT in being kind of maybe a little bit gun shy in terms of implementing it. And I would just go back to, how important the performance testing is. everybody's dealing with different oils, different aggregates, different chemical additives. And it's just important to kind of understand what you're going for and what those products, how those products affect your mix. You know, I would encourage producers, and not that we're going to stick on a lime versus liquid anti-strip, but to do a methylene blue test and to see the clay content of your fine aggregate before you even proceed with trying to use additives or trying to use lime. I think it's important to find out what your struggles are, and then try and make a plan and to pick a chemical that works best for that.
Excellent.
I think there's
Well,
one
I'm going to
question.
ask all of our panelists at this time, if in the chat box, if you would please put your name, a phone number, and an email address in there, so any of our attendees can reach out to any of you individually if you'd like to do that. But we're about 45 minutes, so I think we'll wrap this up in the next 10 minutes. So I'm going to give each of our panelists kind of an opportunity for a closing statement. And Jeff Weitzel, I'm going to start with you. Do you have a success story or an example that you'd like to share with us, or about the benefits of success of the WMA?
Yeah, I'd like to share my screen once again to demonstrate a project that was done and some of the challenges and benefits. So if that's okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. It's connecting the share. Hopefully it doesn't take long to do that. For some reason, it's not. It's going very.
Well, how about you give us a verbal version then, Jeff?
Going very slow. Okay. Yeah. So, verbal version. So this is and there's several projects. I mean, I could be talking about projects for days, but a project in particular in Nebraska, they had a very late construction season because they said, hey, we have to get this project done at a 45-minute haul. They're using valley dumps. And of course, we use some of those here in Colorado, not always, but some contractors still use those here and also elsewhere in Utah. A lot of things working against the success of this project. The temperatures were not ideal. It was 45 degrees with strong winds, and the guys in the field were complaining about workability in the mix by the crew. Well, after putting in a war mix additive, improved all overall workability, easier to compact at lower ambient temperatures. They were able to obtain their density bonus with the mix additive in place, extended the paving season, improved adhesion, and with the lab work, going back to the lab work with Jeff with Ingevity had stated, is that, let's look at some of that stuff. And what they were able to do is they had a 94% TSR ratio, and their ideal TC index increased by 33%. So, we talk about this as a warm mix additive. I like to call it as a workability additive because these additives, what they do is they do more than just, and that's how it came out. It's like, hey, it's a warm mix. So everybody's like, oh, reduce the temperature. But it's much more than that. It allows you to work in not ideal conditions. So it's like you and I, Mike, have talked about and talked to other, agencies, local agencies within Colorado. It's like, even though it's below 50 degrees, you don't have to shut the job down. What is the most important thing is density. So this allows you to obtain densities at much lower ambient temperatures. It allows for lower plant temperatures by reducing the aging of the of the binder, right? And keeps the good parts and it reduces cracking. So we talk about balanced mix design. So right there, if you do reduce the temperature at the plant, it'll help aging of the binder, which reduces the cracking and improves your ideal CT, helps with your balanced mix design, and saves the contractor money by reducing all of those things, energy consumption, etc. But that's really what I had on that. So
Thank
sorry I
you,
wasn't
Jeff.
able to share the screen, but
It's okay. We're keeping this conversational today. Matt, how about you? Yeah, what would you like to close with? Do you have a success or another comment that you'd like to?
Well, Jeff's got me nervous. I'd like to share a real quick video of a drone video I did last year of a project here in Denver. If so, I just hit share screen, right, Mike?
Yeah.
Let's see.
I'm gonna guess it's not gonna work. We haven't had great luck today. We got something. Yep.
Can you see it?
Yep.
Let's see it.
There you go. Is there audio to this, or are you just gonna
No,
talk us through it?
it's just text.
Well, just talk us through it then.
So we did a one lane of a Zycotherm mix SMA. This is 2019. We lowered the temperature, 50 something degrees. You can see there on the left is the far left is the Zycotherm lane. That's the eastbound driving lane. And pretty simply, it's just, I think there's no doubt when the temperature goes down, the crack resistance goes up. And I've seen this on all the projects that we've done where they've truly dropped the temperature. The cracking is just far, far less prevalent in the WMA lanes. And that's probably with Jeff and Jeff's products the same, I assume.
Where was this project?
Bellevue and Lakewood. I think we did that. It was 3 or 4 years ago, and it was
The city of Lakewood.
City of Lakewood. Yep, for the city of Lakewood,
Okay.
with an SMA 7628.
When you see pictures like that, the proof is in the pudding right there.
Yep.
Jeff LeCorchick, we're gonna wrap it up with you. What would you like to share with us to wrap up?
So I'll keep it conversational. The successes that we have in Colorado are right now pretty much surrounding compactability as being a workability mixture agent. So we have a couple customers that we deal with that really extend their paving season in the beginning and the end. Two of them being United and Kiewit. Kiewit did a project, I believe, in Colorado Springs on I-25. They did a thin lift in October and used 0.5% of our product to achieve density and improve workability. Something really similar with United. They were long haul. I think it was an 1.5 to 2 hour haul. Used our product to make sure that they could achieve density. There was a density spec on the project. And then, what we're hoping to see more is the option to use these WMA chemistries in lieu of lime. We did do that in 2016 with Elam. I believe we were in Region 3 on Highway 6. We did a lime replacement and a lowered temperature. We saw improved flexibility without jeopardizing rutting. So that's kind of what we're hoping to continue to see, is that Colorado embraces the technology and uses it for all the benefits that it has to offer, not just a compaction aid.
Thanks, Jeff. I see a comment in the chat box I'm going to respond to from our friend Hans Jorgensen. Hans, thanks for joining us today. And Hans was just making the point about the balancing comments about contractors' profitability versus quality construction in the field. And so I'll reiterate that from the State Asphalt Pavement Association, that focuses always on quality. Quality. That's the number one driver, whether we're talking about CDOT work or local agency work. It's always about quality construction. And these additives that we're talking about help increase with density, compactability, On the flip side of that can increase a contractor's opportunity to maximize incentives. So that's kind of a driver to help producer on a DOT project. Use it, but it's not at the expense of quality. So Hans, if you have any more questions about that, or you want to chat, I'd be happy with that. But this is it's not profitability at the expense of quality. In fact, it's the other way around. It's primarily focusing on quality. And on the flip side of that, encouraging people to do it increases profitability. So I'd like to thank all three of our panelists with us today. You can find their information in the chat box, but you can also find all their information in the CAP membership directory. There are three members of CAP in good standing, so we encourage you to reach out to any of them. If you have additional questions, I don't see anything else in the chat box. So with that, we'll wrap up our session at 55 minutes. This will be uploaded to the CAP Technical Library next week. So thank you everybody for joining, and thank you panelists. Thanks very much. Have a construction season.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, everyone.
Well, thank you, Jeff. I appreciate it. That's great.
Thank you. That was my first one.
It's all good. Went great.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
one.
Bye-bye.